Welcome to Watches at Joe's. I'm Joe, and today I'm going to banter about the Aquareef 40 from the Golby Watch Company. So thank you for dropping by the channel. And before we get into that banter, let's take a look at what I've got on my wrist today. On my wrist today is a prototype from Slow-Mo Watches based out of Toronto, Canada. They are currently running a Kickstarter, and this will be the subject of my next video. I'm looking forward to digging into that more. But now, let's put the focus where we want it for today, and that's on the Aquareef 40 from Golby Watches. This watch is currently in pre-order, and you need to remember the 5th of November, because that is when this will increase in price, as it will go from a pre-order window to being a full retail product. Currently, this is going for 350 British pounds. When the pre-order period ends, it will go up to 400 British pounds. I'm an American, so I took the time to convert based on our current conversion rate. And today, if you were to go the route of selecting shipping and duties paid on delivery, or sorry, not duties paid on delivery, DDP, which is duties paid before delivery, you are going to be at an all-in price of $543 with shipping to America. And when the watch goes into full retail, it is going to go up to $618. That's going to be a $75 difference, and that is the cost of the watch, including the current tariffs that are happening for shipments coming from England to the US. All right, so with all of the pricing information out of the way, let's move some stuff out of our way and start digging into specs. But as we move stuff out of the way, let's first actually step back and talk about what all this watch comes with. So the Aquareef 40 comes with this beautiful watch head that we're going to dig into more. It comes with a bracelet. You get a screwdriver that will help you remove links from the bracelet. You get a warranty card. You get the box that it ships in. We'll open that up real quick in case you didn't see the unboxing video. And you get a strap. Golby started as a strap company, so it is very cool that they are still giving straps with their watches. Oh, and you also get this nice, neat little cleaning cloth. All right, so as we start moving some of this stuff out of the way, my tools that I use, my macro camera, my lume torch that we'll come back to, calipers that let me get what I think the measurements are. We'll see how good they are. All right, so let's open up some specifications. So, as we talked about pricing a little bit already, let's talk about the watch head a little bit more. This watch is going to have a diameter of 39.7 millimeters when I measured it. We're going to get a lug width of 20 millimeters, and we're going to get a lug-to-lug I found of 46.8 millimeters. The thickness of this watch is going to be 12 millimeters total. When I measured the crowns, the primary crown that controls the movement, I got at 6 millimeters, and the secondary crown that controls the chapter ring, I got that in at 5.5 millimeters. When we go to talk about the lume a little bit later and see that, we're going to see that it is BGW9 lume for the hands, and then for the indices, they're going to be BGW9 Super Luminova. Our movement is going to be the Miyota 9015. It is going to be a standard movement with a -10 to +30 accuracy. As we go to look at the case back here soon, we're going to see that it is an exhibition case back. And then various weights that we're going to get here with the components left on the table. So the watch head itself is going to be 68 grams. On this bracelet, size to my 7-inch wrist, or about 18 centimeters, we are going to find that it weighs 136 grams. Our FKM strap here is going to weigh 27 grams, and these 4 links are going to weigh roughly 14.3 grams. Now that we've got some basic specifications out of the way, let's zoom in a little bit and just get a little bit closer in on this watch head. There we go. All right. So let's start by talking about this dial a little bit. This is the third watch from Golby Watches. And to date, every dial has been an oil pressed wave pattern from what I can tell looking at the website, having not played with the other two watches myself. They are just doing really, really nice things with the style, the colors that they choose. This is the teal colorway. There are 4 other colorways that other reviewers are looking at. I will have link to the website below, and then you'll be able to check out those different colors. But the light play with the indices and with the dial, and this is just my 2 light setup here with a little bit of bounce, and it's just really fun to watch how the light plays here. So we've got that nice wave pattern for the dial. We've got gunmetal indices going around. We've got this nice frame date window. And for the dial text, we're going to have the frameless Golby logo that's hiding under our current time. So we're just going to move time forward, and that's fine. Give us a little bit better view of this dial as we're going. There we go. So now we got a better view of the Golby logo. On the underside above the framed index, we are going to see the Aquareef 40 text. We're going to see the word automatic. We're going to see 20 ATM water resistance. One of the things that I really liked about going from the original Aquareef to the Coastal was the logo going from framed to not framed. I thought it really made the dial shine and look a bit better. Sorry about that. Touching the touchscreen on the camera makes it jump a little bit, and we'll figure out how to get that stuff better. But yeah, I really enjoyed the logo just going from having that frame to not, because it just lets more of the dial show off. And in that same sort of sense, I'd love to see some more text get deleted based on how things go in the future, right? Like for me, I don't think water resistance needs to be on the dial. It's a dive watch. Those are assumptions that I'm willing to take personally. But I do like having 20 ATM there. Automatic, that's a hit or miss for me. Like at this point, I assume most of the watches that I'm buying are automatic, but I know that's not everybody. I also think when you've got something nice like this exhibition case back going on, that you get a little bit more leeway to get away from that text, as it's pretty easy to flip over and to see it. That being said, those are just design decisions, and they're not design decisions that I think would stop me from buying this watch. I think they look really nice. So as we go on from just the dial construction, we're going to look up and we're going to see this chapter ring. It is going to be controlled by this crown at the 2 o'clock position. This chapter ring is going to let you set a second time zone. That'll let you track time in a second place. So if you're just going on vacation and you want to know what time it is at home, if you've got family that lives in a second time zone, it is very simple to just unscrew the crown and get this to roughly where you want it to go. This is another place where they made refinements from the original Aquareef. There used to be more hashes to show the 15 and the 45 between hours, and now it's just the hour and the half an hour. All right, so we're going to set this to British time relative to me, which is going to be +5 hours for me. There we go. And then as we go to push it in, we just want to make sure that we don't end up accidentally rotating it. All right. Since we're over here on these crowns, and hopefully I kept that in frame and I'll see that in playback, we are going to see that my fingers are just a little big for operating. So I think another thing that I would prefer is just have the crowns at the 2 and the 4, just because that gives my bigger fingers a little bit more room to operate and feel more comfortable. And then last thing to talk about on the front of the watch here is going to be this bezel. I feel the bezel's got some nice action to it. If I really try to, I can force some backplay to it, but that's not really the watch. Like when it just sets it is, but if you go really, really fast, you can sort of force a little backplay, but then there's no backplay once it's set. So this bezel is a really solid bezel. It's also going to be a very luminous bezel, and we'll see that a bit later when we go. Instead of being a ceramic bezel like the first one, we're going to have a sapphire bezel here this time. And it is really, really bright from what I've seen. So yeah, so we've talked about the dial, we've talked about the chapter ring, we've talked about the bezel a little bit. Let's go on and take a look at the back. So I really like this rotor that they've done. It has a nice wave pattern that really matches with the oil press pattern on the dial itself. And then the other thing that I like is at the edge, it really seems to me like we're going from wave to beach. So this little texturing that's done at the end just really reminds me of grains of sand. And that's a cool little detail that I like. I'm going to have some macro shots that pop up in the video, or you can check them out on my Instagram. And those will let you see that a bit better than maybe what I'm able to show off here on just camera. All right, so we took a little bit of a look at the rotor, we've taken a look at the dial, the chapter ring, the bezel. What else do we want to talk about? Let's zoom back out. Or actually, let's stay here for a second. I'm just going to turn off these lights and see what this loom looks like. All right, and then we've got me dropping my torch here as I turned off the lights without actually grabbing it. So let's hit this with a little bit more UV. There we go. Yeah, so when it's charged up, this is very luminous. I find that there is a good amount of lume everywhere. The hands seem to be a little bit weaker than the indices, but that's okay, and it's also called out as it's just lume versus superluminova. And the lume on the bezel looks really, really good. I think this is something that as you wear it about the day, as you transition in between light, we can do that a little bit here on the fly, sort of see the sunrise a little bit. We're going to see it setting. I think they've done a really good job with this loom. So with the loom shot out of the way, let's get this onto my wrist. So we're going to zoom out. All right. We're going to do the thing that I'm sure everybody loves to do while somebody else is watching. Attempt to put a strap on to a watch. You think it wouldn't be that hard considering they're quick release straps. It's always funny. The thing that I find myself doing is somehow, no matter how much I've properly lined up and went, okay, this is the end that I know that I want towards my body. This is where the date window is. Somehow I find myself messing it up and putting the strap on backwards. We've got these quick release pins here on this Golby strap, or on this Golby bracelet, I should say. That's going to make it really quick and really easy for us to actually get going here to get this back on wrist. Always check and make sure that you're secure before you put it on, because sometimes you're just a little bit off and it's going to come straight off on you, like we just saw there. There we go. So now that we've got this on bracelet, let's take a little bit of a look at the back of the bracelet for a second. So here we're going to have this very safe diver's construction. It's similar to what some other brands that do, and other people will say the name. I'm just not going to, because while similar, this is way different. When I take a look at this, to me, this is one of those places that As Golby continues to refine and move up market, the bracelet is good. But at the same time, it's also got some sharp edges for me. When I take a look at the clasp, the locking mechanism I love. I love how thin it feels, but then also just running my hand across, you can feel the sharpness. And as someone who has little kids, I often pick up my kids, and that's one of the things I think about with bracelets that I'm wearing is how much scratch potential do I have for them? And that does influence the watches and the choices I make wearing my watches. Uh, so this clasp is really easy to use. It opens. You're going to see that this is a stamped clasp instead of a milled clasp. For me, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. This is a choice that gets made for cost. But at the same time, as it goes up market, you would expect to see a milled class in here. We're going to take this back off for a second so that we can take a look at the way that this system works. So zoom us back in. There we go. And so this is the quick adjustment system, the on-the-fly quick adjustment system. You're just going to pull up, and then you're going to be able to slide all the way this way, and all the way this way. It's a pretty free slide inside of here. So as you can see, these grooves here, there's nothing really locking it. And so I've had problems myself using this, but that's just because sometimes I go to throw it down and it just doesn't want to go. And this is one of those places that I think as it keeps moving on and refinements keep happening, I can't wait to see what happens with this system, because right now it works well. It's good, but you know, I want to see great. I want to see where we go with that, and I can't wait to see what happens. So that being said, that was zoomed in really far and we're past that, so let's zoom back out. All right. Put this guy back on. And then let's get this on my wrist. All right. So now that we got this guy on my wrist, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And so let's talk about how this feels on the wrist itself. The weight feels good, with the watch head having a little bit more than half of the weight and the other weight going into the actual bracelet. That feels nice on wrist. With its lug-to-lug of about 47, it feels really comfortable on my 7-inch wrist. Looking down at this depth here, let's try and get the side angle. That's a pretty okay view. It looks awkward for my wrist, but that's okay. You can get that feel of how it looks. The mid case sits really nice on the wrist itself, and then the bezel thickness doesn't look to take up too much, so visually it just looks really nice as you're looking down at the side view wrist profile. It's kind of hard for me to do on camera. But with the rest of it, you know, it looks really nice. It's super easy to read. The fonts are very crisp. The date integration works well. I know some people don't like a white date wheel and they want to see it color matched. I think in this case it works really well for readability. I think that the curved end links integrate pretty well. The fitment is good. And so overall, I'd say this is a nice bracelet to wear. It's got its downsides with the entire system going on here, but those downsides don't meet or cause any harm in the day-to-day wearing experience. You might get a frustration for a second as you're readjusting, but that's not that big of a deal. And at the same time, you've got a quick adjust system, so you don't have to worry about carrying around tools, and you don't have to worry about your wrist size changing throughout the day. So all in all, I'd say this is a really good wearing experience. And then when I think about overall about Golby at the price we're looking at in America, which is, you know, right now, if you're buying before the pre-order ends, it's going to be under $550. If you're buying after the pre-order ends, it's going to be closer to $620. And so those things are just going to really depend on how you feel with what you're spending money-wise. I think it's a really great value at the $550 for an American. You're getting a Miyota 9015 movement inside of the watch. You're getting a sapphire bezel that looms amazingly. The loom is applied really well onto the indices and onto the hand. The bezel action works well. You're getting an open case back with a custom rotor. And that rotor like meets with the Golby theme so far. It's been a very coastal diver themed watch set. I can't wait to see what they keep coming out with. But their design is really, really integrated across, and they're not just doing things to do them. They're thinking about what the brand is and where it's going to go. And as we're putting it on this FKM strap, it's the origin of where the company started as a straps company. And you can just tell like the quality and the evolution as they keep going just keeps getting better with everything related to Golby. So at the end of the day, I would say if you are looking for a dive watch, if you like the colors that you see on the Golby website for any of the watches, I think you're going to be very happy with this watch. But ultimately, that decision is going to be up to you and what you decide. Hopefully I provided enough information for you today to help you make a decision. And you know, I'm learning, so thank you for taking the time to sit all the way to the end. If you have recommendations or suggestions for what I can do better, let me know. If you have any questions about the Golby watch, please let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. And I just want to again thank Craig and Sarah at the end for lending me this watch. I know I'm a very new channel on YouTube, and there's a lot of trust when you send out a product you've worked on to a stranger on the internet. So again, thank you guys for taking the time to stop by and listen. Looking forward to making the next video on the slow-mo watch. And again, thank you very much. Please subscribe below if you'd like to see more from me. Hit like, leave a comment. Let's help get that YouTube algorithm seeing who I am so that I can give more people my opinion and my banter on watches. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.